So most of our clients are pretty much over the age of like 30, 35, but around 40, I would say most people have to start taking their training differently and in dealing with like all the stuff that you wanted to do, say 15 years ago, you can still do, but we just have to kind of structure it a little bit differently. And the things that you know that you should be doing are just are going to become more important as you get older. And you're still doing strength training, you're still getting your heart rate up, doing conditioning. You don't have to like stop lifting heavy. That's kind of a misconception that people have. Everyone thinks that just has to go away. When it comes to lifting heavy or doing strength training, the only thing that I would argue you might have to do, and this kind of depends on the person, and it depends on how much training they've had in their past, of how much strength and I guess overall training that they've built up is definitely going to impact where they are now after 40 years old. I would say, number one, with the training, maybe with the strength training, we're not consistently training as heavy as number-wise. Say your max is a 300-pound squat. Well, we don't have to be training up to like, over 275 every single week that you're doing squats. So when we build up, I would say building up the weight that you would do, I would stay lower, longer, and then maybe we would build up to one day or 1 or 2 weeks, and then I would go back down, and I would have a longer gap, in between the weights that we're gonna go really, really high up, because otherwise you're just gonna get more beat up from that. And it's just going to, affect your training after that high volume, the high weight, high load week or two that you're going to be doing. And I would stretch that out and do more moderate weights where you're still lifting heavy. They're still going to feel heavy. It's not like you're going down to like 100 pounds when you can do 300, and it's just going to be so easy that you're doing them for like a ton of reps. We want to still think about training that day for as heavy as we can for that day. Doing your warm up and then going, how do I feel? What can I build up to? And as you go up in the weights, you go, you know what, I feel good today. I think I'm going to push it a little bit heavy. And then knowing that, say you build up to like, hey, I had a PR, I went to 310, for my squat. Okay, cool. We should have kind of a deload from that. And the next time that you're going to go heavy with that, we should be kind of a couple weeks down the road, just to keep you healthy, just from like a healthy standpoint of like, hey, we can still keep our strength, but we're not getting beat up while we're doing it. Now, recovery, like I said, all the things that we know that we should have been doing, say 15 years ago when you're 40, now that you have to start focusing on. So doing, making sure you're still getting some mobility work within your program, which is going to definitely help you lift better, which we put in all of our programs to get you in a better position for, say, a bench press, squat, deadlift, whatever it may be, things that people are typically tight on. If we've been sitting for a living, we're all kind of like this. We're all kind of like this anyways. Working on stuff of opening up your shoulders because we're like this, trying to get them open the other way. Same thing with your hips and hamstrings, getting all of those loosened up so that when you go and do your exercise, your movements, you feel good doing so. When you start doing your warm up and you're doing the mobility drills, you might be like, man, I'm super tight today. Today's really hard. Then from there, you can then go into your movements and feel better while you're doing them. So you're going to have to do more mobility, Then you're going to have to add more soft tissue work, whether that means you going and getting massages maybe once a quarter, maybe you coming in before you work out and rolling out on a foam roller or a lacrosse ball, or adding that into your workout. So in between your sets of, say, your main lifts or just later on in the workout, just to feel better, just to kind of take care of that tissue. Then doing more things like drinking more water, making sure that you're getting around, up to 100 ounces or 127, which would be a gallon. We're trying to hit that number consistently because that's going to matter more. Limiting your intake of, say, caffeine, limiting your intake of, say, alcohol is going to all, cover all your bases, feel a lot better, going to make it a lot easier for you when you exercise. Then making sure that you're hitting your calories, and especially protein. Things like protein are going to be much more important for you to hit to make sure that you're recovering so you can still keep training and still be feeling good and then getting results, A lot of people think, well, I have to lower my calories so much because I'm so much older. And there may be some truth to that. Well, as you get older, your metabolism is going to drop. You're not going to require as many calories. But if you're active and you're training consistently throughout the week, you are definitely going to need fuel. And I would say we're primarily focused on is getting your protein up to make sure that you're recovering enough through that. So training wise, you can still be doing the same thing that you did when you were 25 years old, just the loads are probably going to go down. You might not be doing the same amount of weight that you're doing and the same amount of weight as consistently as you could. Okay, like when you're like 18, you can lift as heavy as you can one day and literally go the next day and probably hit the same numbers or very close to them. That changes a lot, especially even after 30, I would say. That's going to start going down to where you're going to start feeling more beat up. You're going to be more sore from it because you have other things in your life and you have less, I would say, youth, at that time. So you're going to have to take care of yourself as in like programming, making sure that you're not doing super, super heavy stuff, very, very consistent. You want to spread it out, but you can still do those heavy lifts. You're just going to have to change those lifts more often as well. So say, for example, every 4 weeks, we change our program, so you're still doing a variation of our main lifts, but they're with a different tool, or they're with a different range of motion, or angle, or load, depending on what it is. So say, for example, I'm gonna go barbell bench press for 4 weeks, then after that, I'm gonna switch to a football bar, which is a bar that you can hold at an angle, still weighs the same, but you're pressing, you're still doing the same movement, but it's at a different angle. That's gonna feel better on your shoulders. That's going to still give you some results and you're still going to feel good, but it's not going to beat you up as much as if you just did barbell bench press all year, which then you will at some point in time have some shoulder pain, and then you will have some issues because you've stayed in the same angle. And probably usually guys that are going, to pick on the guys that are going to the gym doing the same weights pretty much all year, every year, nothing's really changing. They're still working hard, but they're going to end up having some issues down the road because they're not changing that at all. So I'd recommend changing things, changing the amount of volume or the amount of times that you're going heavy and giving yourself some more breaks. You're going to have to increase your water to make sure you're doing that consistently. Try not to have as much alcohol, if any, if you can. Limit your caffeine. Sleep is going to be huge. Making sure that you're getting like 7-8 hours a night. And then making sure that food-wise you're hitting where you should be, all the things, and also too the mobility and the soft tissue care, stuff like that. All of those things, combined are going to get you feeling exactly like you were, say, when you were 25. The problem is, if you're not doing one of those things, if some of those things are lacking, then you're going to have some tightness. You're going to feel beat up. You're not going to recover. You're not going to feel good. You're not going to come to the gym and actually want to get after it. So if you guys have any questions, please feel free to reach out. This is what's worked best for our people.